Hey everybody, this is Mark Smith, host of Digital Roughnecks, and I'm here with Matt Oberdorfer, who is the founder of Embassy of Things. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Mark. Good to be here.
So, Embassy of Things, what the heck is that? And tell me about that, because we're going to get way into your background with AI and industrial thing and all that stuff. But kind of give me a little bit about your background and how you got here.
Yeah, Embassy of Things, or short EOT, is an industrial software company that really focuses on getting data from SCADA system, historians, anything that's on the operational side into the cloud, where it can be used by AI analytic systems to basically do three things. One is reduce operational costs, increase production, um, help maintain and get improvements for health and safety for operators, and also help to reduce carbon emissions and all that good stuff that you can actually do with analytics.
Okay. So how did you get into the oil and gas space? I mean, you didn't just wake up one day and say, dang, I'm going to go into the oil and gas space.
No, as I mentioned to you, Mark, in kind of before this call, I used to really help from a investor perspective, startups that were actually in the industrial space to figure out, how to get started their technology stack. And so helping and handholding some of these startups always led to one problem, which was, they went to a big oil and gas company or even a small one and said, hey, we have this cool new AI product or service. And maybe we have a big data analytics system that help and can solve some of your problems. And we just need data. And the company said, well, you're not going to get your hands on any of our systems or in our data because they're all, locked away, isolated from the internet in our operational networks. But we can give you some sample data, and here you go. So typically what happens is they did some, analytics on the sample, came back. It's like, hey, we can save you money. We can help you increase production. And the big company says, great, but you are still not going to get that, access to our data. And this is what I call a successful POC that never went anywhere after. That's what's called the POC hell. Like,
Right.
the POC hell is literally plastered with successful POCs that never made it out of hell, right? So, so EOT, kind of is really focused on solving that problem. How do we get data, into the cloud and help the customers, help the AI companies, and help the cloud vendors to bring it in a form and shape and way so that they actually can, make use of the AI and analytics products and really actually, reap the benefits of what they've discovered.
Now, you told me, in the green room that you've actually got quite a few super majors. Are you able to mention any in particular that the clients that you have or?
Yes, our biggest customers is BPX to be specific. This is a public customer. We did that together with AWS, our partner cloud vendor. So if you Google AWS, EOT, and BPX, you'll find a lot of stories, architectures, write-ups, how we actually connect to their SCADA systems, which use cases are supported, and for what kind of the benefits that came out of it.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So now you've done this and you've got this platform that allows them to get, allows, let's say, non-ops departments, right? So ops has always had access to the SCADA data, but then there's all these other departments, including even the CEO and other people that need access to this data, and they didn't have access to it. So now you allow them to get access to that data and do all kinds of stuff with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's absolutely correct.
So give me an example of something that they now have access because of your platform.
Oh, the examples, there are hundreds of different use cases from, anything that's coming from drilling, real-time drilling. So you want to actually do real-time adjustments to drill bits, everything that happens on that aspect of oil and gas, to just literally production monitoring and analytics, right? Which means, let's say you want to adjust plunger cycles, or you want to detect anomalies in artificial lifts or ESPs or whatever. These, or just monitor the equipment, the water tank, whatever it is. These are all use cases that we support.
Now, you've got an upcoming book. Tell me about this book and why you decided to write it, and yeah.
Yes. So the book is called The Trailblazers Guide to Industrial IoT. And I wrote this book as a response to, I've been involved, as you, Mark, as well, in many customer projects. And, typically what happens in these projects is that they go through specific kind of stages and things happen. And a lot of the industrial IoT projects sometimes fail. There are different reasons for failure. If you actually Google, industrial IoT project failures, it says the process, the people, resistance to change, technology, there's different reasons that they list, but the truth is a little bit different. So I wrote this book in a very different way than the normal industrial IoT book. So if you're looking for, what's the protocol between PLCs, can you use MQTT to pump data into a SCADA system that's, that then forwards it to an OPC server into a historian? That is not the book. This book is a novel. It has a storyline. It follows the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell to actually build up a protagonist. There's an antagonist. So the Trailblazer is really a guy that sits in a big Texan city that has very involved in oil and gas. And he sits in his office in a tower and looks at his whiteboard and sees a message that says, can we use AI and industrial IoT to save our company, to reduce carbon emissions, to save the world, or whatever? And so he goes on this journey, calls in his team and say, hey guys, what is this? What can we do with it? And so he starts off really crafting a plan that they can build a digital transformation project inside their company. And of course, there's a competitive department, another organization with another guy that wants to do the same thing in the same company, right? And of course, there's they both talk to the CEO. He picks one, the other one has to go, undercover, and there's just a lot of stuff that happens. And it's inner political things inside the company. So a lot of these things, if you read it, you might think, that's me. That was me last week in the meeting. And at the same time, it also dives into the technology, into what is AI, what is AI, what is AI 1.0 versus 2.0, right? It's so the goal was to really entertain people and at the same time educate them in a way. So even if you don't know anything about AI and industrial, the goal for the book was to kind of get you some, have you some insights and things to walk away with, where it's like, I didn't know that actually is possible or not possible or whatever. And at the same time, also help people that are actually in real projects to avoid some of these, landmines and death traps that you can actually run into when you are in these projects. How do you actually start a project and don't set it up from the beginning for failure? Like let me put it this way. Typical failure recipes for failure in industrial IoT and digital transformation projects are, number one, what I call the boil the ocean approach. So you get a big consulting company in, they do a death by discovery session and interview everybody in your company and what are the use cases, and then you have a laundry list that's so long because everybody in the company, their grandmother, their dog of the grandmother, flea on the dog of the grandmother gave a use case. and then you say, oh, let's build a system that can do all of them. Okay. If you start out like this, highly likely 99.9% failure, because there will be no system ever that can do all these use cases. The other one is the no use case approach. So some companies are like, let's first build a data lake, put all the data in, and then later we're going to look for users that can use it. If you do that, that's almost a 100% chance of failure, because finding users later for data that's stuck in some swamp that nobody understands anymore is not going to happen, right? So anyway, it kind of dives into these things that, how do you start it? What's the right use case? That's not an easy thing. The right use case is not the one that gives you the biggest ROI. That's not a giveaway, but that's kind of what the answer is. So it's a little bit more complex than 42.
Well, now I'm dying to find out what happened. Does the hero make it? Does he, have an internal and an external transformation, like in the hero's journey?
Yeah.
I'm assuming yes.
There's definitely a refusal of the call at the beginning.
Well, right. Who said, yeah, what do I do? So where do you see things going? I mean, let's say that, there's enough success stories out there to where people have, a good example of an industrial, automation project going right using AI and stuff like that. How is that different than, without AI, for example?
Well, I do see a huge shift in terms of what's happening right now, specifically in the industrial world. That is driven by the potential and power of AI. What I mean with this is 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there was not enough compute power. There was not enough technology available that what you can do today. Even, what your company does, Mark, these are things that are so powerful, they were not even possible. Now, that said, people always tell me, we did digital oil fields already 30 years ago. In industrial IoT, we had sensors 30 years ago. That's correct. But, today, with the power of technology, you can do things that were impossible. You can predict the future in a way, and you predict how long is in the life of this asset, before it leaks, before it fails, before something happens, right? So in terms of drivers, if companies do not embrace AI, their lifespan or their existence as a company has a limited lifespan or a limited time to live, so to speak, right? So what happened just this year with generative pre-trained transformer models that mostly is in the language space and text space, is applicable also for numerical and video in the future. So that will drive even more the need for companies to actually embrace AI. So I see just so much, not just so much potential, but there's so much competitive requirements for companies to go this way, that there's, talking about in another book, crossing a chasm, right? So you cannot be any more laggards. If you still got no AI, you're like the black and white TV guy. You got to get to the color TV soon.
Yeah, I mean, I know in our own business with Clean Connect, there were specific examples. For example, one of our clients used, computer vision suite that we have to win a competitive permit situation where it was winner take all. There's no prize for second place. And they won the largest set of permits in Colorado, and it was a game changer for them. So there's that example. Second of all, I think a lot of these oil and gas companies are going to have to do more with less. So, hey, I'm still going to keep building out new sites and whatever, but I can't hire any new people. So how am I going to take that one person and literally empower them to be the equivalent of 30 people? Well, AI, computer vision. We've seen that examples of that right now. So now you think of the guy doing in our case, like manual LDAR versus the guy who can do autonomous LDAR and can manage 100 sites from behind his laptop 24/7, at some point there will be certain problems in industrial IT that you just simply can't throw bodies at it. The bodies aren't available, and if you could, you just can't throw enough bodies at manually to solve what a human plus AI can do. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah,
absolutely. You're so correct. That's exactly what I meant. And you guys are doing this, right? So I'm fascinated by, what you guys actually do. This is, from my perspective, the future, that nobody can just say, okay, well, we have, 30 guys that just stare at stuff all day. If the competitor has one guy that can basically, do that while he's watching TV, right? So it's like, plus the AI will be ultimately much more diligent and able to detect anomalies and foresee what's happening in the future than even the most trained person, right? So that's the other part too.
that's right, and we're seeing that as well. I'm talking about the training side. So you think about where's ChatGPT at, right? So when the first one comes out, they say, well, it's like writing an essay, but it's at the equivalent of, I don't know, a third grader. So the next one comes out like, ooh, this one's actually like an eighth grader, right? And the next one will come out like, no, this is college level. Like, okay, what's happening? It's growing so much faster than a human being could be trained to grow at. Same thing that's happening in our space where there was a study done for manual LDAR, and this guy looked at hundreds of guys doing LDAR and saying, okay, the difference between a person who's brand new, gave him a OGI camera versus the guy that's done 500 site surveys is literally a 10x difference. Right. All right. So what level is autonomous LDAR at? Well, what if, when it first starts, maybe it's not even as good as that newbie. But then after trading it, which we've now trained with 30 million videos, 30 million. Well, no human could consume 30 million videos. So now, what if it's as good now as a guy who's done 300 site surveys? But it takes only 90 minutes to train this guy. So training 90 minutes plus this AI equals somebody who's done 300 site surveys. And then eventually it will be like the 500 guy. And then so at some point, and it's working 24 hours. When that guy's minus 20 and he has to get his truck, he's like, I'm not going out today. This thing's sitting out there doing it in the middle of the night all the time. So at some point you're like, forget it. It's good. It's good enough. It's as good as some of my best people. And so you work on problems like that. And so the question I think people should be asking, hey, is it going to replace me? No, but it will augment you, and it will, you still need the humans, but human plus this is pretty powerful than just human by himself. And that, I think, is the diff.
Absolutely. I mean, it's specifically because it's physical assets and it's physical ramifications and impact, right? If it were all digital and content creation for some entertainment, it's a different story. If something doesn't look right or goes wrong, you still need human control, right?
Yeah.
But that said, AI, and I mean, what we're seeing right now is just the beginning, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, specifically with ChatGPT, right? I mean, now it can, pass all sorts of exams and whatever. But what I see in the future is, if you have a favorite movie, let's say if The Matrix or Indiana Jones, there's a new one coming out, right? Systems like ChatGPT will be able to read these scripts for the movies and then write a script. Similar story. It will actually be able to personalize this. Let's say it knows what all the movies that you like, Mark. It will be able to read all the scripts for the movies you like, write a new movie script that you will like because it's the same structure. It has the same emotional triggers, maybe even better, and so on and so forth. And that's just the text. So imagine they are working on, creating artificial computer graphics and visual effects, artificial actors. Imagine in 5 years from now that you can basically just go to Netflix, click on it, and the entire movie is generated on the fly. The Indiana Jones 15,007th episode, right? Let's say, right, with Harrison Ford and all the other guys playing, right? But it's all generated, including the visuals, including the audio, on demand, right? So we're getting to that point where the digital world will get to that point. Back to you, what you just said, in a physical world where stuff blows up, where you're flaring, where you need a human person to absolutely make sure that the stuff doesn't go wrong, right? And somebody who actually knows what they are doing.
Right. So yeah, I mean, taking and solving real industrial type problems using AI, it's happening. And, will we get to the point where you just type in and say, hey, I'm thinking about, doing drilling at this location. Is this going to be a profitable thing? And it looks at millions of computations and come back, yeah, here's the site design. Here's what it looks like. Here's the IoT devices you need, and, and put it all together. And you're like, no way. Well, one thing it can do is analyze lots and lots and lots of data, and so, yeah, with what you're doing and gathering all this IoT data, putting it up there and allowing people to use all kinds of different tools to look at it, you're getting that data set to be able to train AI. Same thing that we're doing. We're getting millions and millions of videos and different things, looking at it every which way to kind of make some predictive, patterns and stuff like that. Well, that's cool. So what can people do, like if they're interested in your Trailblazers guide, how would they get that, Matt?
So the Trailblazers guide is going to be available on Amazon on August the 22nd. There's you can go to thetrailblazersguide.com, and there's a countdown. It has the ISBN number, and over time, over the next couple of months, there will be more info on it. Yeah, that's the way.
That sounds good. Well, I definitely am one who's going to want to read that book. So anyway, Matt, thanks for being here at Digital Roughnecks, and I look forward to hearing more stories about industrial IT and AI.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It was a pleasure.
Yep.